South Africa says it didn't know. That's their excuse again and again. Well, welcome to 10 Minutes with Kuhle, and I'm your host, Kuhle Meseko. So, in today's story, let us discuss the Russian aircraft, the sanctioned one by the United States for helping transport military weapons, as well as how it landed in Upington and Pretoria's claims of ignorance. Now, I know the story has been perpetually reported. I don't want to go through it as if you never knew the background about it, but let me just touch on some key things. So let's remember, this isn't just a mistake that we witnessed this past week. This is a pattern. It is a shadow network that connects South Africa to war economies, to sanctions and secret deals that date back for years. South Africa, especially under the ANC, has been notorious for allying with people that don't believe in democracy, for allying with terrorists, for allying with racists. The list goes on and on and on. They literally pick the worst in the world. Let's look at what just happened. Abakan Air, a Russian airline blacklisted by Washington for flying weapons to support Russia's war in Ukraine, was cleared to land in South Africa. Now, the Department of Transport says they issued a foreign operator's permit and didn't know the airline was sanctioned. Well, Barbara Creasy, Minister of Transport, I'm not surprised. You know, the lady looks shocked half the time. She looked like she could be Ramaphosa's sister. Always shocked. You know, she's always got that face. Now, let's be honest. How does a whole government with a Department of International Relations, a defense ministry, and intelligence services fail to check a US Treasury's sanctions list that publicly available online? Let us not forget that this plane or cargo plane flew to Upington Airport, and Upington Airport happens to be an airport that is owned by AXA, which is the airports company of South Africa, which is a parastatal, otherwise a state-owned entity run by the government. So in a way, they had so many ways of knowing. But this is South Africa. You know, it's just incompetence. It's actually not even incompetence, it's complicity. That is what it is. Now, let us not forget that we've actually seen this before. Remember Lady R, the Russian cargo ship that docked quietly that one summer's day at Simonstown Naval Base in 2022. The former US ambassador, EU Brigadier, accused South Africa of loading weapons onto the vessel bound for Russia. Pretoria called it disinformation. Even Malema came out saying, how can South Africa assist Russia considering the state of our military? But hey, it seems like we are that useful idiots because we are the only country that is not sanctioned amongst these list of countries, and we end up being the useful idiot to assist them in their mischief. Ramaphosa ordered a judicial inquiry. Surprise, surprise. Found no evidence. Surprise, surprise. Kenny Gunene. But the truth is, nobody was ever held accountable. No footage was released. No answers were given. Just another mysterious Russian cargo operation buried under excuses. We've seen this time and time again. So, this time, the ANC couldn't lie. Now, let's fast forward to 2025. Another Russian cargo aircraft, another sanctioned company, another story of, we didn't know. Who took my iPad? You know, that's how the government behaves under Ramaphosa. Everyone is shocked. Nobody knows what's going on. The bottom line is, it's not a coincidence. It's a playbook. Now, let us remember Gaddafi. Do you remember Gaddafi, that dictator, the guy who led Libya for many years, 40-odd years, 45 years, if I'm not mistaken, And just to link the two, if you think this is just about Russia, think again. We can trace this pattern all the way back to, like I said, Muammar Gaddafi and his gold bars. You'll remember that a lot of his loot and gold bars and money and assets was said to be hidden in vaults all over the world and in other places where the sun doesn't shine. But when Gaddafi was killed, billions in cash and gold disappeared from his vaults, and years later were found or somehow made their way to South Africa quietly. And South Africa, well, did admit that we had Gaddafi's assets, which actually belonged to another country, not even to the Gaddafi family. Libya's gold, Russian cargo, Persian oil, and secret weapons deals, these are not isolated stories. They paint a picture of a state that has for years acted as a safe haven for sanctioned money and backdoor war logistics. To paint this picture even better, remember, South Africa is perhaps the only country out of this crop that is not sanctioned. So many of these countries that are sanctioned and warlike and dictator-like see South Africa as the useful idiot. They see South Africa as that country that you can use legally. This is sort of like using your good... Remember when you're a kid? Let's make an example. You had that good young brother, good young sister, who you'd often refer the difficult questions to for them to reach your mother or your father's ears so that they can just approve. And that is South Africa. But let's look where the plane came from to make this even worse. The plane actually came from Iran, the same Russian cargo plane. Because it came from Iran, went to Upington, and then went to Lanseria. The same Iran, by the way, if I have to remind you, that Chief Ruzani went and visited and enjoyed the Persian oil and spoke about how we can defeat Washington. The real question is, are we seeing the emergence of underground alliances? South Africa, Russia, Iran, Afghanistan, China, moving goods and resources under the radar of Western sanctions. Because every time Pretoria says we didn't know, another sanctioned vessel lands. Another gold stash is found. Another trade deal collapses. Let us not forget that in this plane that jetted off to Libya, what happened to be found was war helicopters that were supposedly going to assist in the Libya war, because you'll remember that there's a big, huge war between the West and the east of Libya, if I'm not mistaken. And there's been no precedent for the last 15 odd years after Gaddafi's death. Now it seems as if we are meddling in other countries' wars. So we seemed to have backed the Russia versus Ukraine war by Lady R. Seems like that is true. Now, what also seems true is this with the helicopters that are being sent to Libya. But in another more shocking story is there's these new type of drones called suicide drones or kamikaze drones, whatever you'd like to call them, right? Look like big dildos, but nonetheless, they were said to carry technology that was made in South Africa. Imagine that. They were said that these Russian drones were carrying technology that was made in South Africa. And to be more specific, it was a certain chip that was made by a Pretoria company called Lancia, which is beyond shocking to see the rot and how deep our country is in assisting wars when our denial has collapsed, when we speak of democracy. And now we are paying the price. The European Union has just slammed 50% tariffs on steel imports, sending shockwaves across global markets. South Africa seems like it could also face the same punishment, even though we have been temporarily exempted. But don't be fooled. That protection won't last long. The EU and the US are both tightening the noose economically on countries that appear allied with Russia and Iran. They are saying good riddance to you guys that think of drinking vodka and Persian oil. We will stand for democracy. That's what the West is actually saying. Nonetheless, we are being punished, not openly, but structurally, through tariffs, trade isolation, and the slow erosion of foreign investment. This doesn't paint a pretty picture. And I might say, perhaps it's time. The AGOA trade deal has expired in September, actually. Tariffs are climbing, not just by the US, by other African countries. Our currency is vulnerable, and yet Pretoria acts shocked, as if these are random events. Let's link everything together now. The ANC has been facing its own financial challenges and are therefore ready to twerk or sell our economic policy or international relations stance to the highest bidder to solve their financial troubles. A company called Ezulwini is in the process of liquidating the ANC. They literally took chairs, tables, computers, and we all know you can't run an organization without that. And surprisingly, the owner of Ezulwini also happens to be a member in good standing of the ANC. I don't know how that works, but that's the ANC for you. And remember the last time before elections when they had trouble, Iran came through to save the day. And that is how the posters got printed. So when the Department of Transport says we had no idea Abakan Air was blacklisted, what they are really saying is we're hoping you didn't notice what really is happening behind the closed doors, because all we are doing is making sure the ANC stays afloat. The deep reality is South Africa is aiding in wars to keep the ANC alive. We're aiding in wars to keep an organization that never loved us and that will never love us. The truth is, South Africa is not neutral. It's playing both sides, taking Western trade benefits by day and doing sanctioned deals by night. Ladies and gentlemen, the world is watching. This has been 10 Minutes with Kuhle. And just to leave you with a parting message, ignorance won't save us. We've got to stand up and fight. Don't forget, you can support the work we do by signing up for membership. It's as cheap as 20 Rand, as well as you can like, share, and subscribe. That's the least you can do. Click that subscribe button. That's the least you can do, as well as let's share this video with 5 other people. Let's get the truth far and wide. I'm Kuhle Ngamane, and this has been 10 Minutes with Kuhle. The lies are piling up, but so is the evidence. Till next time, see you soon.